What are the implications of the changes in commission for sellers? The National Association of Realtors has proposed a settlement to protect defendants, that is, its realtor members, from litigation and to satisfy the class action lawsuit claims. What this means for sellers is a few procedural changes, namely in how cooperative commission, if any, is communicated in the MLS. Here are a few of the real-world implications. Commission is negotiable. Real estate commissions have always been negotiable between a broker and their client, but a broker does not have to negotiate down their service fees, which persists. As consumers, we are accustomed to paying prices asked by service professionals and retailers all the time. The responsibility remains on us as diligent consumers to compare the value differences between the offerings. We can consider the cost of real estate services the same way we may consider the costs of legal and or medical services, or the same way we consider the experience and service differential provided by a central market grocery store here in Texas versus a Walmart. The costs at Walmart are less, but you don't get the service variety, quality, beautiful displays, or panache of a central market, which you may be okay with. Bringing this back around to the real estate world, if the only thing that matters is cost and other services like professional skill, client service, marketing quality, and labor and or effort in service delivery don't matter to you, then considering the lowest cost provider may make sense. But suppose that professional skill and all of these other wonderful extras matter because of their direct and immediate impact on whether or not you can sell your product, that is your home, for top dollar. So then paying for a real estate service provider that's capable of delivering that ideal outcome may be well worth it, because a great realtor is worth their commission. Because if I can make you what I would receive as my commission, isn't that an overall net gain because you end up getting exactly what you want? Demand for housing may further decline. It has always been the case that a seller and or their listing broker and agent work together to determine how much commission gets shared with the buyer's real estate broker and agent, if any, right? And this is known as the cooperating commission. The psychology behind this is that the more enticing the offer, the more aggressive buyer's agents will be in promoting the home in front of buyer prospects. The more motivated they'll be to act in the best interest of their client to get the deal to the closing table, and the more skin in the game that they'll have to make sure the transaction goes smoothly. This is still the case. If there is no offer of compensation for cooperation, and in a market where affordable housing has been pushed to the brink, as buyers are less liquid these days and they can't afford to pay their own representative, doesn't this just mean that more buyers will just ultimately opt out of the housing market altogether? And this possibly further depresses the housing market as a result due to the weakened demand, causing prices to decline and ultimately resulting in homes sitting on the market longer, which is outside of a seller's best interest as it prevents them from moving on in the least time possible. Additionally, sellers face increased risk. My biggest concern is now the increased risk and exposure for sellers in an incredibly litigious society. In my prior example, many buyers, either out of necessity or attempting to reduce their expenses as much as possible, may resort to DIY representation, with the buyer being unrepresented in a transaction that is either a first-time transaction for them or something that happens very infrequently. They'll be relying more heavily on the seller to communicate all of the defects, deficiencies, problems, and other deferred maintenance with the home. Will they even know they need a home inspection to help spread out some of the risk, give them the ability to do their own due diligence? Sellers may need to provide more disclosures, details, and receipts to keep them from getting sued by lawsuit-happy buyers who make the mistake of buying an inappropriate home on their own with little knowledge or complete ignorance. And as a result, listing agents may have to do more work. Lastly, this means that the duty falls on listing agents who only represent the seller to do more work, now effectively being placed in a position to educate the buyer, do more of the heavy lifting, and protect the seller against these increased risks and responsibilities. This means that a listing agent should be owed more commission for the additional time facilitating a transaction between a seller and a buyer. And if we were doing 50% of the work before, we're now doing 75%, maybe upwards of 80% of the work, since we now have to also facilitate more showings. That's more time in the car, boots on the ground, with the remaining 25% being the actual counsel, guidance, and advice that would be going to the buyer that they now just won't get, possibly. So therefore, the published headline that real estate commissions have been cut in half is an absolute mistruth. As listing agents, we were and still are willing to share our commission with buyer's agents, right? As long as the fees are all reasonable for their portion of the work done. And that's called delegation in the real world, right? And then also to increase the home's marketability for the seller's benefit. Now, these are all things to consider in this evolving and dynamic market. But I hope this illustrates the state of these ongoing considerations today and a lot of these discussions that have legal and political implications and arm you as the seller with the information you need to make the best decision for you.